Welcome back to another episode of the Raice Brothers podcast. In this episode, I have Reb Simcha Raba, who's a Rebbe in Rabbi Fisher's yeshiva here. As he likes to say, he's a teacher of ancient manuscripts that explore, explain, and scrutinize the Torah as given by Sinai, an ancient halachic text written in Aramaic. Chavra, this was an amazing conversation. Reb Simcha Raba is a really, really exciting and fun person, and we get to explore so many interesting and deep ideas that I know that my mind was definitely expanded from this conversation, and I hope that yours will be as well. This was a perfect way to enter into Elul for me because we kind of pushed the limits in some of the things that we were talking about, and this wasn't originally going to be intended to be another podcast, but after we recorded it and we spoke together and we're like, okay, we just got to put it out raw and unedited. It's going to jump straight into the conversation, and I hope that you all love it and that you enjoy it. And I'd love to hear all the interesting things that come up in your mind. So please hit us up in the comments and share with us. And we're looking forward to really having an amazing Elul of rejuvenation, of reconnection, and of alignment with Hashem. And may we all be blessed, Mamash, with a Shana Tova. Wow.
I'm just gonna share with you that, like, shit, a drastic shift. Like, now there's like a nervous part of it, like how we're gonna spend the next 2 hours, you know?
Yeah, for sure, and that's good. That's fine. So let's speak. We can speak out those fears, because Gewalt is. There's a vart from Rav Dessler. It's one of my favorite meditations. Do you learn a little bit of Rav Dessler?
Yeah. Reb Dessler's he's a big piece in my life.
Nice. So Rav Dessler has this vart in I believe it's Parshas B'Shalach, or maybe it starts. It's Shmois ve'era by B'Shalach. It's like there's like pieces in as it goes through each one. And so probably starts earlier on by the sneh, where Moshe Rabbeinu comes and he sees the sneh on the side, and he starts walking towards the sneh. And he looks at this very interesting experience, right, of the sneh, of it burning and it's not being consumed. And Hashem says, "Shalno alechem yal raglecha." Take your shoes off your feet. And Rav Dessler says that this is mamish the first spiritual experience that Moshe Rabbeinu is having that's recorded in the Torah, and it's teaching every one of us that the only way to be able to be nichnas into an experience of kedusha is by opening up your shoes and getting real with your stinky feet, feeling this experience. Wow. Because it's only by starting with the experience that you're currently in that's the only way you can get to kedusha. And the experience, the emotions, the consciousness, the person that you are, where you are right now, that is holy. And he says this is what Avraham Avinu used to do also, is that people would come, and he brings the Zayar down. He says the Zayar says that Avraham Avinu would wash the guest's feet, and immediately he would say Yishanu tachas ha'etz. And so the Zohar says that he would wash their feet from avodah zara, and immediately they would be nichnas tachas kanfei hashchina. And he says this is because if you're real with your stinky feet, and Avraham Avinu was able to say, just wash your feet just for a moment, and immediately you could be nichnas tachas kanfei hashchina. You could come right into the Beis HaMikdash. This is the pathway in. And so all the meditation and stuff that we do is all built, like for me, is built primarily on this idea that it starts where we are. If you start by running away somewhere, by nature, not by nature, but the essence of it means that the avodah is a running away avodah, and that's not avodah Hashem. That's avodah zara. If you're trying to run, you want to get to a holy place. Why do you want to get to a high place? Because you don't like where you are. That's not avodah Hashem. That's saying that's saying there's two, but saying that where I am is the merkava for the Shechina, and from here I can start. That's mamish saying there's one.
Wow. So if it's okay to just share with you, there's a big piece in IFS, which is like it's even like a machlekes, like in that world of like, is it a reductive model where like you're just like kind of making space, or is it better like, I don't know what it would be called the other way, or I guess a productive model where you're like trying to access your center. In other words, everybody wants to be present. The question is, do you become present by like strengthening presence, or do you become present by like letting go of the things that are not allowing you to be present?
Nice.
So in the traditional IFS, which is what I was taught, it's a deductive model that there's a center that they call a self, which is always there. And if you can be present and notice your anxiety or your nervousness or whatever it is, and then you can be present with that and ask those parts to like relax, then you'll wind up in self. And recently, like there's been like another like, you know, I guess like an addition to the program that is not accepted in the traditional view, which is like trying to make yourself present, like, you know, like breathing exercises and grounding exercises, and like okay, like I'm like a holy and pure neshama, like that's who I am, and let me like, you know, focus on that. And the truth is, as I say that, I want to just like put in parentheses, I didn't study that other way, so I'm not 100% sure that that's what it is, but that's how I understood it. And when you're telling me this idea, so I'm curious how much of it is from you and how much of it is in that Reb Dessler, because I could hear that idea coming from you, meaning that could be like how you identify, which is awesome. That like, you know, deductive, like take off your shoes, notice your stinky feet, like just notice what's happening right now, and like wow, like magic, like if you're able to be present with where you are, you'll become so centered, like you won't even believe it. But at the same time, it like I'm like curious. I'd like to like look it up because I could see it coming from like a place of like like when you say like the stinky feet thing, like I'm curious how Rav Dessler said it. Like with it, like is it really like that like beferish? Because I love it and I want it to be true. And I want to tell you one more thing. I have this like, I think I shared this with you when I met you for the first time, that like it really like bothers me that like when I meet people that have tools that really help me get in touch with myself, there's like a very big like agenda part of me that needs to find it in the Torah. So when you share with me this like Reb Dessler, it's like I need to like see how he said it, and like I would just be so happy like to see that like deductive, you know. If I could just share one more thing with you, just to, like give you like an example,
Loving this.
you know, like people love body language, like and like, you know, somatic expression, and like also in IFS you're taught like pay attention to the client's breathing, pay
Sure.
attention to the client's posture, and it's like yeah, like amazing, like you know, I wish like, you know, when I was learning Mesilas Yesharim, he would tell me about like, you know, noticing my breathing and noticing, you know. Anyways, somebody showed me a Rashi, and it says that Avram Vayera, it says he saw twice. And Rashi is asking, why did it say twice? It says he saw the way that the angels were standing, or the Arabs, however, you know, whatever, and they were like, they weren't comfortable coming close to his tent. Oh, which is crazy because you're telling me the Vort Mamish about washing your feet. That's the same story. So in that story, why was Avram Zaycha to bring them in? Because he noticed their body language. He noticed that they were uncomfortable. And because of that, it was like, oh, so now let me continue the communication. They were communicating with me you know, physiologically. I'm going to communicate verbally. So like that's what I mean. Like when I see that in the Torah, like okay, fine. So my Rebbe never taught me that. I'm okay with that. But to see such a clear source in the Torah of like the limud and the emphasis, I get like really excited about it because it's like I don't know. I've never really worked on why I need that so badly, but it's definitely
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. And I think that I think I also have um some of that. I think I used to have more of that. Like when you said how much of it is your own Vart, I was thinking to myself, like, does that make me feel good? Or does that make me feel like I'm perverting the Vart? And like I kind of was like noticing it. And then I thought back, I was trying to think back to the wording that he used. And to me though, to be honest, like if it's my pshat in Rav Dessler, I have no problem with that either.
Right. Because that could make you feel good also.
Right. No, I'm saying like I don't mind. Like it doesn't like I don't feel that it's any less. Like on the other hand, when I say over a word in somebody's name, like I want to give it over. So for sure, he doesn't say stinky feet in that way. He probably
Right,
says
right.
something more along the line. Okay, and that's just Yehuda Raice. Like I'll say anything over, and I'm gonna do it in the way that God blessed me, which is raw and coarse. And I'm as my Rebbe always likes to say, he's like, Yehuda, you're rough around the edges, for better or for worse. Not a compliment. It's not a it's not a negative negativity, but it's just so I'm fine with that. I like being rough. I like my red beard being a little fluffy and rough. But I think that he does. I would like you should open it up and look at it and tell me what you think for sure.
Yeah, I definitely am. And like I also like I want to share with you the only if the it's because of that there's a part of me that wants so badly to find it. Like if it's your own word, like your own word is important, like Chedushim and Torah. Like it's
Right.
just like this part of me is like I want to find like traditional sources, like anytime in the training, anytime that they would quote anything from from like Buddha or like anything like that, it was
Or
like
the
annoying. It was
Sufis.
like, yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah, you're
oh,
like,
and this isn't, a matter of fact, and I just shared, this was crazy. I still haven't reached out to them. The last day of the training, or the second to last day, they were talking about like the connection and like the universe. And they showed like a picture of like a thumbprint and how it looks exactly like if you cut a tree down, like it was like a bunch of examples like that where like the human like thing looks exactly like the natural thing. And another one of the things that they showed is like if you look at the world from like a satellite view, the rivers, they look like veins, like exactly like they showed pictures, like they showed medical pictures and they showed natural pictures. And as I'm watching that, I was reminded that in Orchos Tzadikim, in the last chapter in Years Hashem, he goes on for literally like I think it's pages. I think it's like 2 or 3 pages about the fact that like man is like a microcosm, and like he says things like your knees represent mountains and like things that I have no like connection to, and I always like was like that's a weird part of Orchos Tzadikim. But a matter of fact, I think that he does say this thing about the streams. He'll say like the constellation, like the sun is like your eyes, whatever. He has a whole thing. And even though I never understood that Orchos Tzadikim, the fact that they were doing this in the training made me like so excited that I had this Orchos Tzadikim that I didn't even understand because it was saying the same thing they were saying, but it was just like a source from like 400 or 500 years ago. So it's just a very present thing. So like yeah, I'm totally down with Chedushim. I'm totally down with like I'm just like like I know even for myself in Bnei Machshava Tova, he says that when you have a regesh, right? I know you're gonna smile when I say that name. It's like there's probably a part of me that like had an agenda to make sure to get that name here at least once in our.
well, I was waiting as you're talking about this. I was going to say that there's so much from the world of Hasidic thought that speaks about all of these things, like so much of Rabbi Nachman and so much. And I was going to say like I was waiting for you to say like the Piasetzna, because like his whole thing is so in tune with these Torahs. It's not even like it's not. That's why I guess to me I've seen so much of it inside already that whether Rav Dessler said it exactly the way I said it or not, it's really not my Torah because I've seen it from the Baal Shem Tov and I've seen it from Rabbi Nachman, I've seen it from the Piasetzna and many others.
Right.
So it's like it's there.
Right. That actually makes a lot of sense, and I do feel like as we're talking, like this is like my journey with IFS started like 8 months ago, and I do feel like I'm like the more that I'm conscious of this, the more I do see, and like one of the examples is like he says like to have an image, to make it a tzior of your feelings so that you can access them easier.
Right.
And one of the first things that you ask in IFS is that, can you see this part? And I was so excited that it was like so explicit. And I even like second guessed myself. I was like, am I reading my pshat into the Piasetzna? And I'm like, I need to like have somebody else read this to like like yeah. So
in my journey as well, in exploring emotional health and therapies, and I, I don't have any formal training, but I've done an incredible amount of studying. For me, it's an incredible amount of studying. I'm sure for others it'll probably be not much, but I've read a lot of books on many different forms of therapies. A lot, watch and listen to a lot of teachers and masters online, and it's gotten to the point where I'm blown away by, like, I know the Baal Shem Tov's always been a tzaddik, but his mastery, and in the Hasidic world, the mastery of understanding the human has grown incredibly, especially because when you listen to it in English and you hear each teacher has something unique that he's able to give it to you in language that you can really understand it, that maybe another person said it. Like sometimes you might hear, like you read a Torah from Rabbi Nachman, and I mamish didn't chop what he was saying because he was speaking in a language that I don't really know what it is. You're reading davening and you're saying, what's the difference between chachma, bina, das, haskala, like maskil, I don't know, all the different lashonis of understanding, and you go, like, well, what do they all mean? And so we have to kind of we're like working backwards to trying to figure out, okay, this is chachma, this is bina, this is das. So now what's seichel? Is seichel a form within those? Is it below it? Is it above it? Like, what is up? And then we have to be, and then where's Dimyon? And we're trying to reverse engineer it. And then sometimes you hear a teacher, without quoting any names, of just different teachers in the therapy world, in the the new age spirituality world, and they'll say something, and you go, hold up a second, and you flip open the Likutei Moharan and you read it again, you go, whoa. Now I get it. And it's a funny thing because then you go, wait, but maybe I'm just putting my story back into Rabbi Nachman or back into the Baal Shem Tov. But then as you learn it more, I'll give you another example. Until I met Rabbi Gerzi, I didn't I think I might have opened the Baal Shem Tov Sefer, or Keser Shem Tov, especially Rav, and just be like, I don't even know what's going on here. After I met him and been a Talmud for a number of years, but learning and talking with him, suddenly I open up the Baal Shem Tov and it's just popping. I read them, and I'll even hear other people teach it, and I'll be like, whoa, your mamish missing it. Can I think the Baal Shem Tov is saying something a lot deeper, and it even something as simple as there's not, this is not simple, sorry. It's actually quite a profound and central aspect of my life. But what Rabbi Gerzi taught me, the process of Hachna, Havdalah, and Amtaka, which is brought up a lot, right, throughout all the Sfarim, and from the Baal Shem Tov and many others, right? It's like this is a core Baal Shem Tov idea that shows up all over. Sometimes only one or two out of the three pieces, and every once in a while even all three pieces. But even when you go to learn it, to try to find out what does it mean in the original, it's not very clear. There's no one time where he goes in and he says, okay, here's how you practice it. Here's what you do. And instead he's it's stuck into these Torahs of things. And within the Torahs, you have to first understand 4 other concepts to understand what he's talking about. He's talking about chashmal, this concept of chashmal is Kabbalistic concept. And every tzaddik has their own way. But even when you read it, you're like, what does it actually mean? Chash is to be silent, and mal is to be speaking, and mal means to cut things away. And what is going on? And it's all these interesting things, and you have to kind of break it out. And so in the outside world, when I heard people teach it, hachna generally means that you're machnia the negativity. You crush it down, and your havdalah means you're mavdil from that negativity, and then hamtaka means that you now attach yourself to something and you sweeten the experience. And it's funny to me because the way that I was makabel it from my Rebbe was to be hachna means that I'm machnia my own ego and my own story to what is, and I accept what is, and I allow it to be there. Then Havdalah means that I now accept the story of what is, but I can separate from it and observe it, and I don't need to be overwhelmed by the story of what is. And then hamtaka is, well, there's many different forms of hamtakas, but either I can feel a different experience, or I could bring light down into that place that was, so to speak, dark before, and now we're making a new yichud. The other way is just more pirud. It's just creating more conflict inside of you. Well, let's crunch that negative feeling down. Don't think about that one, and it's only going to come back 5 minutes later and smack you in the face even harder, because it's just getting, attached to a big spring that just keeps on popping you. You're like, I'm doing all these amtakas. How come my life just seems worse than before? And so like these type of things, and once you see it, and once like I heard it from a Gerzi, suddenly like it all opens up very clearly, like what these avodas are. Anyhow, it's amazing. But we are blessed. We are blessed. I'm even just to have the svarim that we have. I could just get happy in my house just looking at my svarim shank and being like, wow, those Eden in Europe, like I don't think there were whole towns that didn't have half as many svarim as I have. And I just sit here, I just look at them, I I give myself I can crack myself up just by putting two different tzaddikim next to each other. And I'm like, look who I just put together on the shelf.
Wow. I have
Gewalt.
so much like the comment. I want to like do like my like small comments before I get to like what I actually want to like
Go,
discuss.
take me away.
So first of all, just in Chavos Ababa is in one of the things that he says to thank God for is that there is a concept of books. He says like books like give us like the greatness, and like you're saying, like, yeah, like I love that. Like the Chavos Ababa literally says like look at books and like get happy, like thank God. So that's awesome. And the second thing is when I used to go to Reb Simcha, in my sweet days when I lived in Yerushalayim, I always would love when he'd be like, and like, and like the Baal Shem Tov and the Vilna Gaon and the Shachayim, they all say, like, and he would mamish just like put it all like in one. And like, it's so right. Like people in the olden days weren't even able to be exposed to what the Nefesh Chaim was saying if they lived in, whatever other town, and the people like in that town weren't exposed because they just didn't, So I love that. And the third thing which is really what I want to like hear what you think. And again, this just comes back to my parts, because I don't think that there's anything. I don't think there's anything like in essence negative about this, but like, like what you're sharing with me about like the Hachna, Havdalah, and Hamtaka Sugya, right? To me, I guess it's embarrassing to say this, but like the Mahalach of Hachna, of pushing things down, is like till today is like the mainstream way of fighting the Yetzer Hara. And it's like there's like a real part of me that like I don't want to sound like a tzaddik because I don't cry on Tisha B'Av, but like I'd like to cry on Tisha B'Av that like my healing that I'm experiencing in a personal way, forget about like the tons of people that like I meet and that I expose to the Mahalach, like you're so Zaycha that it came from like, Rav Gerzi, that it came from like a Torah source. Like I've just been like, and it's not to say that I haven't seen it. Like when you said Achna Avdallah Amtaka, there's a sefer called Das Etz Atzmacha, which is a very unique sefer. So it's like, it's very miyuchad. It's so miyuchad that like, there are people that like, Baruch Hashem, as usual, in a miyuchad sefer, there are people that are actually like, whatever, not so down with it. But I'm just saying, it's like, it's just not, I'll tell you something phenomenal that you probably know already. I read it inside on Shabbos, and I was at a breakfast table and I was telling somebody that this approach of like not bashing down your Yetzer Hara, it's like, it's like so foreign, but like I see how it works in my own healing and I just see how it works. Like I don't know what to tell you. And he's like, oh, Rav Hirsch says that. And I'm like, yeah, sure he does. Like your interpretation. And I looked it up on Shabbos, and I'm telling you, listen to these words. The relationship with a wife, it says after the chait, it says that the husband is going to be moishel on the wife. And it says by the Yetzer Hara that Pesach Tachas Raice and Shukasa Aleh Ve'ata Timshal Bay. So Hirsch is like, if you think that the Avodah in the Yetzer Hara is to like bash it down, then why did God use the same language with your wife? I hope you don't think that you're supposed to be bashing down your wife.
I feel like the same. I feel like many people that are bashing down the Yetzer Hara and trying to work it that way, they're also bashing down their wives.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, but that's the idea. It's like,
Let's be honest. Is it possible any other way? Like Lamaisa, that's ultimately what happens if we treat ourselves and we beat ourselves down. How could we really be nice to the others around us? It's some kind. If you really believe that the way to deal with your own Yetzer Hara is by beating it down, that's the only way you're going to get it to be right.
Well, I'll tell you. I think that's. I think that maybe inside people will feel it, but I think that's why a lot of times, and I've experienced this. That's why I don't. I maybe like like I don't. I'm not trying to bash. I'm trying to be authentic and just like my experience is like if I would come with a problem to somebody that I felt that could help me, or to a safer that I thought that could help me, I would walk away feeling like it was like it wasn't like an understanding, but rather a chizuk. Like, oh, you can do it. You're stronger than this. Don't let it control you, and don't let it this and like it's all dimyonos and it's not true, and all of that is true. It is true that I can control it. It is true that it's dimyonos, but that like that ingredient of like, well, like, are you in touch with it? Like, oh, so like every time like you go to your room, like you just want to like like forget about your day and just like drink, like, wow, like I want like so like are you really present with that? Like, is that, how strong is that? Like, are you like, there's a real like feeling that you have that you just need to get rid of your day, like before you start like telling me how strong I am, and before like how present am I with what's happening? Like, that's like a very grubber example because that's like very like, obviously if but there's so many nuances like throughout the day, like Lishman. I'll tell you something crazy. I don't feel like I ever had an authentic. I'm sure that I'm going to get deeper, and maybe when I get to a bigger level, I'll say I didn't have an authentic, but the word lishma, to do something with a pure agenda, I didn't understand what it meant until I got introduced to IFS. Like it was like every time I would see anything like yeah, if you're not down to do chesed, do it anyways. Like, be it tzaddik. Yeah, but I'm not feeling like I'm down to do chesed right now. Like, there's a part of me that's like, anyways. So yes, I just wanted to bring up that like I feel like even though it's almost like 2020 vision, hindsight is 2020. It's like why is it that it's so? I don't even know if I'm actually. I feel stupid asking this question, but it's like it bothers me. It's like I want I want like the way that I understand what you're saying, and I also like when I hear of this is somebody else named Daniel Katz, who I hear is doing like amazing things. It's like I was never exposed to this, and it's just like it's so foreign. It's like I feel like I'm reading like a different religion when I think about like treating the Yetzer Hara with respect.
Yeah, that's powerful. You mentioned that until you got into IFS, you didn't know what an experience of the Shema is. Can you share with me like a little bit of what your experience of the Shema is now that from where you are now?
Yeah. I'll tell you, like, I think like if I could just be like, open, like with my wife, like if she was having a hard day, then I need to be like a tzaddik. So it doesn't matter like if now she's having a hard day, so she's like, angry at the kids or angry at me or whatever. It's like I need to be a tzaddik. So like the part of me that's really angry that she's like doing this, just like, no, like you're not allowed here. And like, let me just be a tzaddik and just say like, okay, honey, like, what can I do to help? Like, you want to take a nap? Like, go take a nap. And like, just to be like totally open with you, like that didn't work in Shalom Bayis world. Like, as tzaddik level as that sounds, like it just didn't work. But like in my mind, it was like, what do you mean? Like I'm doing everything that the Sfarim tell me to do. Like my anger is coming up. I'm not listening to it. You know, my gaiva is coming up. I'm not listening to it. Like I'm being the biggest tzaddik in the world. It's like I'm coming home and like, you know, all I want to do is just quote unquote help my wife. And that was a big struggle for me. And it just wasn't working. And thank God I was exposed to the approach in IFS. And the approach in IFS is like we started with, like, oh, so I'm angry right now. Okay, can I take a second and see like that feeling of anger? Do you need to be here right now? Can you give me some space? Like, is it okay if I just like notice you and maybe come back to a different time or whatever? And like, you know, let's just fast forward. You know, you get past all those. And then I'm looking at my wife and it's like, oh my gosh, like you're having such a hard day. Like, I don't want you to take a nap. Like, I don't want you to do anything. Like, I just want to be here. Like, is that like, now what? Like, I'm just gonna be here because I just want to be here with you because it's just, you've had such a hard experience. Like, you know, I don't even want to say the word compassion because I think that that's already gonna, like, you know, whatever. But it's like, it's just like for me, it's such a deep level of presence that, like, you know, that's where now I think like Lishma is, like in davening. It's like, I don't want to have the best davening. I know that sounds like, to you, that probably sounds normal, but to like the rest of the world, like if you tell somebody like, yeah, man, like I go to shul and like, I don't care like what happens. Like, I don't need to have a Yom Kippur davening. I don't need to, like, they'll be like, what are you talking about? Like, but that to me is Lashma, like just come with what you have and just like, just be there for whatever that means. I don't know. As I move it into the davening realm, I don't know if I'm able to vocalize it the same way, but I see it all in the davening, all in learning. Like when I sit down to learn a Gemara, it's like, of course I want to understand it. Of course I want to get the pshat. Of course I want to connect to Hashem, but it's like, it's so much deeper of like, okay, like God gave me like this awesome like thing that he like gave me his knowledge. And like, it would be awesome to just like connect with it. And like, I hope I'll understand it, but if I don't, then like, that's also okay, because I just want to be present. Like, yeah. So I think, just to go back to Shalom Bayis, I think in the Shalom Bayis, because I struggled so much with Shalom Bayis beforehand, I think that it like, the contrast is so much greater.
Yeah, I it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Oh, there's a number of like ways Rabbi Gerzi puts it. He says it's the moving from the state of being, let's say, like with the wife, or from being in a place where you're trying to solve, save, and fix, and you're moving to share, care, support, and encourage.
Right.
And that's really the transition from, it's a side of Netzach to moving to the side of Hod, right? The side of Netzach is where we're trying to fix it, and Netzach is really a very beautiful thing, but it's an ego Netzach. I'm doing it because I have a problem with what is. I have a problem with you being in a bad mood. I have a problem, and therefore I need to solve, save, and fix. But when we move out of it and realize, hey, there's one who's a lot bigger than me, who gave this experience. And even though I would judge this experience as wrong, and the truth is, if I was God, I wouldn't have willed this moment into existence. But then we look at it and we go, but I'm not the judge. I'm just here to meet the moment. And so therefore we say, Baruch Dayana Emes, you're the true judge, Hashem. You judge that this moment is deserving of being here. So, but clearly the part of this moment that is deserving of being here is not what's actually being done or the doingness of this moment. It's the existence of this moment that has some value that's beyond what I'm doing, right? For example, let's go straight to, Averas, right? At the moment of an Avera, somebody did a chet, and you'd say, well, if I was God, I wouldn't have done that, right? Because that's a negative moment. But yet God decided there should be a moment of that. So what could it be? So clearly, it's not on the level of doing that it's worthwhile or valuable. It must be on the level of existence itself. There's an existence, there's a beingness, there's a worthiness to this moment that I want to be present with. And that's really what got lost in the moment of Chet. What got lost in the moment of Chet was actually just me being with Hashem. And that's really where it all started from. It started from that I kind of pushed God out of the room. And that's why we're bringing Hashem back in. And really in this space, like when you come and you're saying about Torah or Tefillah, what you're saying is that it's not about as much as I can do in this moment, it's not nearly as great as the experience of being in this moment. You know, my brother Yaakov says of art, he's been saying it for years, and I've said it over 1,000,000 times, about the value of a Jew being in this world, a Jew existing. You know, we think, oh, you got to put on tefillin and you got to keep mitzvahs and you got to do all these things. That's true. And we do need to do all these things. But just on the level of existence, the existence of a Jew in this world is far more profound. For example, you and I are we're both practicing Torah observant Jews, right? I think we both try to keep Shabbos.
Yeah.
Yes. But both of us in a second would be Mechal Shabbos if there was any Jew on any level of existence, even let's say somebody who's unconscious, not consciously keeping Shabbos. But yet for us to extend his life, both of us would have to be Mechal Shabbos. We wouldn't even think twice about it, right? We would both be Mechal Shabbos. Right. Meaning, so in a second, halacha shows us that you would sacrifice doing for being. Even more than that, this is a part that I at one point years ago I got very into. I was like, the anti-Semites sometimes say things that are so real, like they chop us better than anybody else. So I went through all of like Hitler's speeches and Mein Kampf. I didn't read everything, but I downloaded it all to one huge document. And I searched anytime that it came up with the word Jew, and I read like a page before and a page after. So I got the context of what was going on, anything that he wrote about Jews. In one of his speeches, he gets up and he goes, if there's one country harbors one Jew, and even if that Jew never entered a synagogue, and even if there never was a Sinai, that Jew just existing in the country will begin to share his essential existence and beliefs and begin to, like infiltrate and like be like a virus for the entire country. And we won't be able to live as we want to live. And I was listening, I was like, holy cow, how come, where's the Muslims that talk about what a Nishmas Yisrael is like that?
Right.
Like, do you really believe that's the power of a Nishmas Yisrael? That one Jew who never even entered a synagogue, never saw a Chumash, even if there never was a Sinai, that soul would completely change the level of consciousness for an entire country?
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So it's like, we gotta open up and see this. Now, once you're a Jew, Gevalt, you should put on tefillin, keep Shabbos, like it's tremendous. But just the existence, the consciousness of a Jew being in existence in this world is beyond comprehension.
I just want to say it's feeling to Hashem that like I'm not holding by internalizing that yet, but just to remember that var, like please Hashem, help me remember that. I want to share that. That's like fire.
Amen. Yeah, it's crazy. It's it's a crazy thing that I'm saying it over from somebody who we don't want to remember.
Right.
And it's like it's a crazy thing that sometimes the darkness, mamish, like the chayshich is it's crazy how it just can reveal some deep truths and deep light.
Yeah. On a more surface level, Reb Simcha Pincus, he has like this speech where he like I don't even remember if I saw it, I heard it, but it was like, like a Rosh Yeshiva, like no kids in the yeshiva are allowed to go to movies. You can't go to restaurants. You can't mingle with like non-Jews. like you have to like always identify, like you have to keep your keep on always, and it's like which Rosh Hashiva is like making all these rules, and he's like Hitler Yamach Shema. Like those were all like he went through like the Nuremberg laws or something.
Wow.
It was like insane. It was like you can't mingle with guy, you're not allowed to go to restaurants, can't watch movies. And I'm like, what the heck? It was such a trip. I'm like, whoa. Yeah,
Wow.
it's scary. It's really scary.
Can I? I'm
Anyway,
nice.
yeah.
I am.
L'chaim, l'chaim.
I was. I would love to hear your thoughts and kind of explore this. I have spent like I have a lot of thoughts about this, about where we are in history, and it's we're in a very unique place. I think anybody who even with a cursory glance at where we're at can see that we're at a crazy point in history. What it means and how we're supposed to respond, that is up to discussion from in a lot of different ways, but it's definitely a very unique thing. So what's your thoughts? Like, we're back, right, the two of us, we're sitting here with millions of Jews back in Eretz Yisrael with a view of human history that we've never been, a perspective of human history that we've never been able to have before, a glutton of information. I don't know if that's the right word, but we have like a vast amount of information at our fingertips, enabling us to see things and to gain perspective on things that in any other generation they've never been able to have such a perspective. So what's your thoughts? And yet and with all that, also the whole emotional uh intelligence and awareness that we have in our world today. So
Right. So it's like funny, like when you ask the question, and like there's like a part of me that wants to say like this like profound like like movement, like, oh well, I'm so happy that you brought that up, Mr. Raice, because I actually have a movement called like Jews of 2021, and we actually and we sell T-shirts and we have hats and we're doing a march tomorrow. So I would love it if if your movement could come and join my movement, and then we could like bring Messiah, you know so I just wanted to name that like that's really like what it feels like I want to say, even though I said it in a little bit of a funny way. But like what I will say, like what I feel authentically, is that I feel like so blessed, like by Hashem, to be in like the position where I am right now. Like I'm 35 now. Like I'm like Baruch Hashem. I'm like like head over heels, like working with people in this generation of like, very deep and getting in touch with themselves. I'm like teaching Gemara and Torah from like, 3,000 years ago, Torah Shabbat and Torah Shabbat Pen, and like, I just have that. And Baruch Hashem, I feel very good with my wife. Like, I'm in such a good place, like in my life. It's like when you talk about like, the bigger picture, like the thing that feels authentic is like, I really feel like if I keep on doing what I'm doing, then that's going to like be what it needs to be. Like, I don't know if I could explain it like clearer than that, but it's like there's a certain there's a certain degree of, for me, of ischadshus where I am in my life right now. Like I almost can't get out of my Dalit Amos. Like I'm almost like it's like, yes, like I know like the world has, like you mentioned a few things about the world. Like I think that it's like very interesting that like people that don't have like the Torah as a value system, like have certain values, and then at the same time, like I don't want to give like such a grubber example, but it's just such a good example of like, it's really not a good example, but it's like, like the difference between like choosing my gender and the difference between like marrying a dog. Like just to like go to like extreme like examples where like I look at the world and it's like, yes, like, a lot is shifting, technology, like, aside from what you mentioned, but like we're living in a very like, the openness, like, like in my IFS training, it was international. So I'm with people from Hong Kong, I'm from people in New Zealand, Iceland, and we're all sitting there just like being present and just like trying to get in touch. And like, it was impossible for that to ever happen. Like the world was never connected. Like when you look at like a globe, there's all this separation, but all that separation is diminuting because there is no separation anymore. Because there's nothing separating Israel from America. Like you could be in Australia now. Like I feel so connected to you. I want you to know, like, I feel like we're connected,
Feelings
So
mutual.
like it could be as I'm giving voice to this, it could be that I'm overwhelmed by like the world. So that's why like I'm in my own Dalai. But I think also there's a truth to like, I just feel so thankful to Hashem that like at 35, I am where I am. And like, as I'm saying that, I also want to share with you, like, I also like, I mean, whatever, this is like really in parentheses. I also started like aggressive skating, like doing like half pipes and ramps and like just to like share, like, I just feel like I have a very full, like, from my teenagehood to now. And like, when you talk about like the world at large, it's like, it's funny. Like, I'm so appreciative that you talked about it that way, because I had my brother-in-law was here 2 weeks ago, and he's like, like being in Israel, I heard a lot about inter-Jew fighting. He's like, in America, inter-Jew fighting isn't so common because hey, dude, like you're Jewish, like let's like daven in the same shul, like yeah, but you look different, like I know we all look different. We're in America, dude. So he was like, so he asked me, like, so what do you think the right thing to do is to create more achdus between Jews and Israel? And it was like the same thing that I'm experiencing now with you. It was like almost like I can't get out of my dollar. I was like, I don't know. I just feel like if I keep doing what I'm doing, but like as I say that now, like just to appreciate like your question, it's like there's a part of me like, am I consciously putting my head in the sand because I don't want to like know what's going on in the world, and like I don't want to realize like like Jews have never been in Eretz Yisrael the way that they have been today. There's like never been so much like exposure to like Torah as there is today. Like Aisha Torah didn't exist 50 years ago. Like this is like we're living in a very monumental time. And it's like, as you say it, like, I'm like, wow, like, and as I'm talking about this more, I'm like, I'm not connected to that. I have to just share with you. Like, I'm really like, I don't know. What do you think? What do you make of this? I don't know.
First of all, I love it. I actually think that you are. I think you're more connected to it than maybe you're saying, because the fact that you even just have the access, like you said about the IFS, the fact that you have the access, and the fact that you walk into your base medrash, or any base medrash that you walk into, there's you have like that, the amount of svarim from so many different generations. That's part of the technology of today's world that enables a base medrash to have svarim from the last, like you said, 3,300 years, from the Torah at Sinai to 2,000 years ago, the Gemara, and everything since in the last 2,000 years, and a connection of Torah from. It's interesting, like even let's say the early Talmidei Baal Shem Tov, they don't have the view of Kabbalah that you could have, even though they were learning by the Baal Shem Tov, because they simply didn't have some of the svarim that were not accessible. Like a lot of the Kisvei, from what I understand, a lot of the Kisvei Ari wasn't even there. So like it's amazing to think that you have the ability to access anything. You could jump on Sefaria right now and do like a search. Like you wanna give a lecture on tzedakah, and you could just go on there and just have so many sources at your fingertips. You can
Right.
do searches.
Hang on 1 second. 1 second. Somebody's just at the door. 1 second. Somebody just come to check out the room.
Nice. No worries.
Thank you.
So I think that, like, for me, gaining a larger perspective of what's happening in the world, while at the same time being able to stay present and conscious within my personal life, are both essential components or values, or I don't know what you want to call it, that I think I need to hold on to. So, for example, like I'll I'm doing let's say a lot of research, and I want to know about history, and I want to understand, how did we get to where we are right now? How did the Jews, leave Eretz Yisrael, by the Churban of the second Beis Hamikdash, and after the Romans really destroy, kind of kicked us out? How did we get into Europe? What happened? How did the cultures grow? How did we get to where we are right now? Like, how, I want to understand how I have cholent, and why cholent and potato kugel and kishka are essential pieces of culture. And to me, there's actually something incredibly deep about, kishka, cholent, kegel. Like, to me, it really is like the Kiddush Shabbos on, morning, when you have a Kiddush. To me, it's like a really, really deep aspect of what it means to be a Yid. And because when we came out of Mitzrayim, like, we didn't have culture like that. And to a certain extent, not having culture that's, in your food and in the music that you're listening to and in the way that you think and in slang, it basically means that it's somewhat external from you, right? If you're just espousing ideas without it being in your guts, then it's like, okay, the Torah, but like, what makes a Jew? Like, right now, these days, like, you're like, you see a Yid like eating potato kugel, it's like, it's in the culture. It's like all the way, Thursday night, like Leil Shishi, being like a certain chill and like eating potato kugel, and gas stations in Muncie are selling it, and like Chevra are going to like Zichron Moshe, like all these things. Like, this is a really profound part, and I think it's part of bringing Hashem all the way into the lowest places. And I feel that our generation is key and is essential about that. You brought it up, like in your own life, the fact that you see a value to the fact that your life is wholesome, that at the same time you can talk about your appreciation for being able to work one-on-one with people, and for being able to learn Torah, and learn, teaching Gemara from 2,000 years ago, while also smiling widely about the fact that you're getting back into skating in an intense way. Like, that is a very unique thing from our generation, at least from the way that I'm seeing it. 200 years ago, exercising was seen, and even in today's world, there's still sheltered communities that are still breaking out. They're going like, well, exercise is a good thing. When you read Rav Kook on Iris Tshuva, and you hear part of Tshuva is getting healthy. Like, some people go, what do you mean being healthy is like it's chukas agoyim? Like, what are you doing?
It's
like,
it's the go.
Exactly.
It's the go.
And that experience and that relationship with it that we have in our generation is only something that's been born from thousands of years of growth. Even when, like, the fight that we had with Greek philosophy, bringing in so much of that, Yafta lekim leyefes v'yishkan ba'alei shem, the fact that we were willing to bring in so much of philosophy and culture and art and things, and we said, it could fit into Torah, to the point that you can even write a Torah in Greek. Like, that's crazy. But that's where a lot of this also really began to come in and say, we do appreciate, and there is a space for it, but it took a long time for these things to happen, right? Like, one of the reasons why we fast on Asara B'Teves is because the Torah was translated. But on the other hand, like, we are excited when a new translation of Gemara comes out. The fact that there's Art Scroll Shas, like, we're besimcha with it, and like, wow, oh look, somebody just translated core teachings of the Baal Shem Tov. Awesome. What do you mean awesome? Shafast. You think the Baal Shem Tov meant to say it in English? I mean, but yet this is part of it. It comes down, and every expression or every new description is somewhat of a limitation of what was there before, but it also brings a giloi. It's an ar and a chayshech at the same time.
Right. You remind me of a Gemara in Adarim. It says like if we didn't do any Averos, then all we would have is like the Chumash and Yeshua.
Right.
And it's like, so wait, so am I excited when I buy Malachim, or am I like, that's like that, like, bittersweet.
Yeah. I can't help but be happy at the stage that we're at. And I'm just besimcha. I love the fact that there's so much Torah out there.
Right?
And yeah, a lot of it only happened because of all the gullus that we went through.
Yeah.
I think there's what can I say? I'm very happy with the way it is. It's painful. And I think that also part of it is listen to this vart. My brother Yaakov just told me over Erev Shabbos. He told me over this Alshich that blew my mind. Crazy to even hear these vartlach. And you're gonna have to go look at the Alshich to see if the Alshich really says this. It says Ki yarchiv lecha Hashem es gvulcha, right at the end of time or whenever it's gonna be. And you're gonna have now you're gonna have all the 10 countries, right? Not just the seven Amamin that were in Eretz Yisrael, but now we're gonna have all 10. So we're gonna have like a big aspect of Eretz Yisrael, and we're gonna have to add on 3 more Ari Miklat. Wow. And so not only the 6 main ones, 3 on one side of the Yarden, 3 on the other side, there's gonna be another 3. And even though there's many other small ones, but we need more Ari Miklat. And the pasuk says, I'm not remembering exactly how the pasuk goes, but the pasuk says something like, "V'loi yishafech dam naki b'Yisrael." Like there won't be the spilling of innocent blood in Am Yisrael. So the Gemara, so everybody's handling like, what is this talking about? Is it talking about when there's healing? Like when everything is all mitukan, Yimaisa Mashiach, everybody's back. So why in the world do you? And now we're having a spread of. So what do you need? What do you need Ari Mikla for? It's for somebody who kills by mistake and he has a place to run. Yanasham Ritzeach. So what's going on? It's a good question.
Right.
And unless you're going to say maybe if it happens before those times and things are still not done, but if it happens before that time, doesn't that mean that like Mashiach came early? Isn't that a good sign?
Right.
So there's a number of vertlach ideas that came in here. I'm not going to go through them all, but like whether Mashiach comes in its time, is it better if it comes later, earlier? If certain people, is everybody going to be mitukan? People going to be left out? Let's leave all that on the side. Okay, we could schmooze it out another time. But the Alshich says like this. He says, there's going to come a time where after thousands of years in Galus, 2,000 years of Galus, there's going to be so much issues. There were so many times that people killed b'shaygig. And now there needs to be a tikkun for them. Right? So at the end of time, even though now, there's not going to be anybody killing anybody, but there's 2,000 years of trauma that we need healing from. So we need more retreat centers. We need we need people. I don't know if you're a Levi, but like, I believe deeply in Ari Mikla as a Levi. Like one of my dreams is to make a retreat center where people come for a full experiential, dive into Pnimius HaTorah, into emotional healing, into spiritual experience, into like all these things. And that's Mamash Ari Mikla. Like I like to tell my friends, my porch is an ear miklat. You come, like we have group meetings every day of the week out there, and like I meet with people one-on-one out there, and we daven out there, and we do meditation out there. Like everything that I do, anything good, I eat burgers out there, burgers and beers out there. Any good thing in my life that I do, I like to do it on my porch.
I would love to be on the porch.
Oh man, you're gonna have to come. You're gonna have to come. There's by the way, I believe deeply that there's a lot of emotional trauma out there that can't be healed unless a person sits down with a good friend and has top level burgers and good IPAs. It's just like this push it. You just can't do the healing without it. You could try, and you could even bring the Baal Shem Tov down, but push it. You need it. And I believe that all of that really is just a hachana for being in the base of Mikdash and eating kachim. Every time we meet, or I try to always remind when we're eating meat, like, guys, this is just a preparation for eating karbanos. That's why, there's no forks and knives. You got to get fleishigs. Mamish got to dive in big time. It is. This is the time. What a crazy vart that is, though. Not crazy?
Yeah. I mean, it's a crazy. I don't want to sound like an Amma Aretz, but I've never even heard of the concept of like an additional 3 Ari Mikla. Like that in itself is like, whoa, like what a crazy thing.
Yeah, there's so much out there that I don't know, and one of the things that people laugh at me, but one of the I get mamish. I believe that somebody just learns Chumash Rashi can have straight Ruach HaKodesh. Like Chumash Rashi is unreal. It's unreal.
Right.
If a person learns Chumash Rashi daily, people, even a lot of chaver, like, they're not into learning. Like, what are you going to learn? Oh, what Masechta should you learn? Be like, why don't you just learn Chumash Rashi? Be like,
yeah,
I don't know. We did that in elementary school. Like, bro, open a Chumash Rashi and let your mind be blown. First of all, Rashi's unreal. Rashi is a pliya atzuma.
Well, it's not Rashi. It's Rashi is like compiling like that, like just
everything
from everywhere. So
yeah,
I can't tell you how many times I see a quote and I'm like, oh, I need to see this inside, because I have that, I got to make sure that like, is this art scroll saying it that way, or is it, and it's like Rashi. I'm like, what? Rashi? No, Rashi in the Gemara. Like, no, Rashi on the pasuk says this. And you're like, whoa, like that's deep.
Yeah. Rashi's amazing, and there are times that I'll read a Rashi and just be like, whoa. Even Rashi many times will quote midrashim, but he won't quote them verbatim. He'll say it, and then if you actually go and look up the medrash, there are times that I have had to read through the medrash 3 or 4 times trying to figure out how in the world did Rashi get from this medrash what he said, and then suddenly when it clicks, you go, oh, how did he see that in the medrash? But once you see it, you can't unsee it. Right. It's like one of those. It's like one of those, mind, like those pieces of art that like have like things hidden. And once you see it, you're like, holy cow, and I never would have seen it if not for the fact that Rashi said that. So he really is he's one of the most amazing things. Even like learning about Jewish history. What Rashi did was profound. Profound. We could probably just sit around and sing and talk about how amazing Rashi is. Just Rashi's existence had such a profound effect on Jewish history.
Right. Which goes back to what you were saying before about like the whole culture thing. It's like, and you're talking about like the power of like this one Jew. It's like, if you really boil it down, like you really are going to get back to those, like, when you say Rashi, like Rambam comes along with that, like certain like people that were just so like, we just take it for granted. Like I imagine like 900 years ago, like a Rebbe being like, where's your Amal Torah? Like, why are you using Rashi? Like Rashi, like there was no such thing as Rashi before Rashi. Like there was just, Gemara, like he really like changed the face, and we just like kind of take it for granted. It's like almost like imagining the world without like steps, like at some time, or the world without wheels, like at some time these things didn't exist, right. like what was it like without Rashi? Like reading a Chumash and just being like, why does the pasuk say that? Like
it almost doesn't even make sense to be able to open a Chumash without it. The funny thing is that the way, like when you read about how they learned Torah, let's say before the Gemara, they learned Torah by learning Chumash, and they would just open a pasuk and they would read through it, and then the like pre-Tanaim, they would just sit there and talk about what the pasuk was saying.
Right. But the thing that I always like to point out, and there's definitely like a cynical part of me here, but I remember like these two guys, like they were using like an art scroll for Chalik, in Sanhedrin, and he said something like, oh, my Rebbe like lets me use the art scroll for whatever, and I was like, listen, like Reish Lakish didn't need the art scroll because he had Rabbi Yochanan. Like, like they would sit around and talk about it, but they had people that actually I'm a Baal Tshuva, so I don't have it, but to and I love my father and everything, and Hashem should bless him with all good things. And it's like I wish I had that, from to have somebody who's telling it to you, and they just know it because they've been in this, and this is where it's coming from. And when you talk about pre-Tana, you're talking about a few hundred years, 1,000 years after the Torah is given, they're sitting around, they're talking to people that actually know, oh man, we got Moshe Rabbeinu, he was, my grandfather used to tell me, that kind of vibe, it's just something that I even, as we talk about it now, I actually had a friend, I mean, he's still a friend, I'm just not in touch with him, and we used to get in a lot of fights about reading the Chumash without Torah Shabbat Peh. I was sharing with him that even within Judaism, when you have commentators, for example, the Ibn Ezra, who will say a pshat that doesn't go with the Gemara, or even somebody like Rav Hirsch, let's talk about Rav Hirsch, his pshat is because he knows so much of Torah Shabbat that even before you question, well, is what he's saying going against something in Torah Shabbat Peh, he's not just saying I just saw Iron Man versus the Hulk, and then it says in the pasuk Bereshis bara Elokim, whoa, it's no, I've just seen Bereshis, Shemos, Vayikra, Megillas Esther, Eicha, I know Torah, and now when I see this, so it's a very sensitive subject. Today, it's that approach of well, they used to sit around and do it, but because and it comes back to what we started with, we want our own chiddush in Torah, you want to know how you're approaching it, but at the same time, it's almost when is there room to say this is a premature svara? Why am I even spending time with this prematurely? And then you go back to the essence of a Jew. What do you mean? Go to that would be awesome. You go to some college somewhere, you meet a guy who's mom, and there's no background. You're what do you think about this pasuk? I just want to know what a Jew without any exposure to mainstream religious Judaism, how do you see this pasuk? And just see where it goes.
Well, I can give you a good example of that. My nephew Izzy, he turned to me the other day and he goes, "What do you think about this pasuk? Vayedaber Hashem el Moshe lemar." It's one of the most repeated psukim in all of Tanakh. What do you think about it? What does it mean? We go, well, it doesn't. What, don't you believe that every word of the Torah is essential? Why don't you meditate on that pasuk for a minute? It blew my mind. Mamish blew my mind, and I started realizing that Mamish, so much of Torah, the essence of Torah. I'm in the middle of something. I don't. It probably was in the laundry. Ask Nima. I don't know. Sorry.
Even as you say that, without even going anywhere deep, it's I'm not tripping out that God spoke to Moshe when I hear the words V'yidaber Hashem el Moshe lemar, and that's not even like going anywhere with it. That's just like the Art Scroll translation. But like even that level of Art Scroll translation, if you take a step back, it's just like it almost sounds fake. Like, whoa, Hashem's like, no, but like really, like no, dude, I'm not trying to be trippy. Like I'm really saying, like
it's unreal, and every time it's repeated. And I think that you're bringing up a very, very powerful point, and I think this is also an issue that is that's very much happening in today's world, where there is this transition between you can't say a pshat in the Gemara until you know. You can't say pshat. Who are you to say a pshat? First, you need to learn everything up. On the other hand, do you ever know everything? You never know
Right.
everything. So how much do you know that you could start saying? And if you spend the first 25 years of your life saying that my thoughts and my intuition can't be trusted, then suddenly when you get into the space where the only thing that can guide you is your actual relationship, like when you begin to get into the world of all this pneumius, which is really the inner journey of a yid. Yeah, that when you get into this world of the inner journey of a yid, and you start like really exploring, like what does it mean to be a yid, and what is your personal relationship with Hashem look like? Have we had
Right.
moments of intimacy, right? And if everything about a moment of connection in tefillah is just what you read in a book and just what Rashi said the connection should be, then we haven't even yet begun to have a relationship with the Bari Olam. And in today's world, I heard a quote. I heard Moshe Weinberger quoted as saying, "In today's world, we're not as into the Torah as we are into the Nosei Torah. Am Yisrael needs the Nosei Torah. We want Hashem." And
Right.
it's an interesting thing. It's like, and I think a lot of the older generation look at it and they go, "What are you talking about? Like it's kfira. Like, how do you even say these things?" And you go, "What do you mean?" But I want to meet Hashem. I want to daven. I don't want to daven because I'm supposed to daven 3 times a day. I want to go into davening and walk in and have a transformational experience that I walk out. Like guess what? After this conversation, you and I are having this conversation. What am I walking out with? So yeah, you definitely have opened my mind. You've expanded me in some ways. Like you've shared some beautiful ideas. We built a relationship, but yet I think I'm going to walk away at feeling happy, right? Because there's something about having a connection, about the experience itself. Even if let's say I won't remember anything that you said, and even if I won't ever meet you again, and even if you take away all, let's say, the outcomes, so to speak, except for the experience, Shabai, I'll be a different person because this was a positive experience. How come with tefillah or with Torah, we're like, well, what did you get out of it? Or I'm going to get Olam Haba. No, like the experience of meeting with the divine is magical, and it changes. You can't be the same human being after experiencing a Shabbos. It's amazing. Well, why do you keep Shabbos? Because it's unreal. Because if you want to experience moments of life that are amazing, taste the Shabbos. Why is that foreign to some people? Why is it foreign to me? Why are there moments of my life that if I heard myself saying this, I'd be like, dude, like, and this is
So
what
I want
it
to
is.
share. I want to share this. This is crazy because this happened on Friday. So we're talking like real fresh. So there's a group. I live in a place called Kiryat Sefer, which is like it's similar to Lakewood, like Kiryat Sefer, right? It's like very
super
like
ultra
by the book,
orthodox.
Yeah. And so Baruch Hashem, we're actually finishing Chavos Levavos this month. We started 3 years ago. Yeah. So it's a group of like 20 guys, the numbers go up and down, but we learn it like separately throughout the month, and then we come together like once a month to like discuss it.
Glorious.
So this week, so because it was like Bein Zmanim, it was like a very small crowd, and like we're in the last chapter of Ahavas Hashem, and like I don't know how it came up, but I was basically saying, like, I really don't know how it came up, but it was like within this, Chavos Levavos, whatever. And I just told him, like, I'm so happy that I'm going into Elul this year for the first time in my life where I don't feel guilty that I don't say the entire Kabbalah Shabbos. And they were like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, basically, like, when the summer started, I like was Zaycha. And again, by the way, I ascribe this to IFS, and thank you, and to Hashem that brought IFS into my life. that I get like very, very present during Kabbalah Shabbos because I don't believe that there's any like halachic like boundaries. So I just like sit there and like it's like I've done it in the past, but only like I used to live in spots. So when you're at Makarev, if you know Makarev,
Yeah.
so you're davening, or in Fisher's Yeshiva when you're doing Kabbalah Shabbos for an hour. So like it's not so much of a choice. It's just like it's almost like fake real. Like everybody around me is doing, like I'm sitting in my shul this summer, and I would just like say like L'chu Niran al Hashem, and just like different things would come up. Like sometimes I would imagine like standing on my chair and like telling everybody like let's go sing to Hashem, but like how do we do it? Like this is just an example. Like it's different, sometimes like different at times, but it's more just like really being present just with the words. And like I can't say the whole Kabbalah Shabbos this way. And the people in the group were like mamish, like they couldn't wrap their head around what that means to like not feel like you need to say the whole Kabbalah Shabbos. And I just said like, but what's the point of Kabbalah Shabbos? Like, isn't the point in order to like be Mekabel Shabbos? I feel so Mekabel Shabbos. And like, it's just to like come full circle with what you were saying about like, the experience of tefillah, and like, it's like foreign to people. And it's like, and then I told him, I don't even want to tell you what my Psukkah Zimmer looks like, because like, then we get into like the halachic realm, but even there, I'm like, not sure. Like, I'll be honest, like I feel guilty. I haven't reached my level in Psukkah Zimmer like I do by Kabbalah Shabbos. I feel guilty basically every day that I daven, because like, I just know that I'm like not being true to myself. And like, it's really a very touchy subject because, and I'll just, to make this a little bit more controversial, like, I feel like when you meet people, and you know this more than I do, when you meet people that are like, like you were talking about your porch, like your porch with like the groups, the people that I feel like you're unique. The people that speak this language are not the people that like, speak the same language of like, yeah, of course, every word in the Shulchan Aruch you have to keep. Like, of course, like, yeah, like that's something that's not okay. In other words, and it's funny because as I'm talking about this now, this is really where I wanted the conversation to go. So it's funny, it's already 12:30 now, but like there's like a certain like disconnect that I feel in myself that's so hard, where it's like, and I experience it a lot because in Fisher's, it's a very open yeshiva, but at the same time, it's like I have conversations with guys all the time, and it's like so where is there this community where you can actually like get that Kabbalah Shabbos, like I don't want to say it too controversial, but it's like exactly like, does it matter that I'm not feeling magical after davening? Like, does that matter? And it's really something very close to my heart, because it just like, I want so badly, like ever since I became religious, we're talking about like, I don't even know, 20 years maybe. Like, it's always been like, yeah, like I want to touch that like magical, like I want to feel Shabbos, like, it's on recording, so you'll decide what to do with this. Like, to be able to know that yesterday, like I cried during Ashrei at Mincha, like it's not Yom Kippur, it wasn't even like Rosh Chodesh, like it was just Ashrei. And it's like, why I'm not getting that more often? Because I can't allow myself to just, I'm so boundarified, if we just created that word now.
Awesome.
Like, so like, to me, it's like, it's a very sensitive subject, because, and it's like, I don't know where this exists, where like, like, and again, it could be I'm just judgmental. Like, if I talk to somebody on the phone and they're like the style of like, yeah, every letter of Shulchan Aruch, every letter, every nikuda, I'm like, yeah, you probably like, when you daven, you probably are, you're probably davening. And then like, I'm talking to this other guy, like, yo, like, I love the magic of just seeing another Yid. Like, I can't even shake his hand, because then like, I just might like be there for the rest of the day. It's like, yeah, you're probably not like every letter in Shulchan Aruch. And again, I say this, it's recorded. I don't want you to think I'm like this like judgmental guy, you know.
No,
But it's like
we're being real.
I yearn to find that, you know, that balance of like, you know, every letter of Shulchan Aruch, including the letter that says that like davening, you know, and including the letter that says
Shivisi Havaya Lenegdi Summit.
yeah, including like, you know, that being the first, and then like the last of like Tov Lev Mishta Tamid, and like
Mamash.
yeah, every letter, but like every letter, not like, you know, like you said before about solving and fixing, but more, you know, like so
Experiencing.
that's something that really like it touches, as you can see, like my whole posture, my whole energy, like it's like I want that so badly. Like I just like when I left Tzfat, like the main thing when I left Tzfat, the main thing that I felt like I was missing was like that the external expression of this, of like just being able to like do that, you know, because I came to Tzfat very like the way that I look as far as just being very, you know, structured. So it was like you know, like the ability to like daven Kabbalah Shabbos for an hour and a half, like the ability to like, you know, yeah, it's not weird. Like, yeah, like today, like I couldn't say any Psukkah to Zimra because like I just knew I needed to say Nishmas, and like I knew it was gonna take me like 15 minutes. So like I just did Baruch Shamar Ashrei, and then like I just the rest of the time I spent on Nish, you know, like so. Yeah, I don't even know where that came from, but
yeah, I'll tell you, I mamish connect with you. I think that you probably keep a lot more of Shulchan Aruch than I do, and I definitely feel guilty about it as well. One of the things that came up with Corona is I started davening a lot more, less guilty by myself.
right.
To the point that there are many times Shabbos morning I don't go to shul, and so this also, like, you know, I'm sure people are gonna say, "What? It's bad that you're doing that." But the truth is that there are many times Shabbos morning that I just want to sit on my porch and daven, like real slow, like start with Moda Ani and let it take however long it takes. So
Yes.
Shabbos morning, this past Shabbos morning, I got up. I was like, okay, I want to get to shul. I want to make it to shul. And I go outside on my porch and I start Moda Ani. And when I got to Matovu, I started singing it. And it was glorious. And Adon Olam just mamish took me to like the next level. And Yigdal is so packed. It's the 13 Yud Gimel Ikrim, like the 13 core parts of what it means to believe in Hashem. And as I'm singing it, I'm like getting lost. 2.5 hours later, my wife comes over and I'm still in the middle of Birkas Kriyashma. And she gives me this look like, we got to make Kiddush. Like, you're going to stop davening? Like, you didn't even, she's like, do you know what time it is? And like, I was like, I can't listen to what time it is, because if I hear you tell me what time it is, then I'm past Zman Tefillah. So like, I probably can't daven. But if I don't listen to you and hear what time it is, then I'm just davening with Amshanav. So I kind of didn't listen to what time she said it was, and I was just like nodding. This is a bad thing, right? This is probably also bad shalom bias. And I just was like, I just need to daven. Like, sorry it took this long, God, but like, this was a tremendous. I sat there, you know, for like 5-6 minutes just saying Tamu Uru'u Kitayv Hashem. Like, what part of me is able to taste and see that Hashem is good? Like, David HaMelech said it. David HaMelech said, you know, Toivli Tairas Picha Me'alfizav V'chasef. Like, he wasn't like being like, oh, I'm so holy, I love Torah more than like gold and silver. Like bro, like, I mean, you know, how much would you enjoy like $100,000 to be dropped into your bank account? Like, that would be really sweet. Like, do I really love these words of like Vayedaber Hashem Moshe Lamer more than $100,000 being dropped into my bank account? And you go, well, maybe he was saying something that actually does connect to me. You know, I turned to my kids the other day. I'm like, we went to learn Shabbos afternoon Avos Ubanim, and I was like, okay, we're gonna learn Siddur, and my kids started laughing. I said, why are you laughing? And I said, we know what the Siddur is. I said, really? I said, I'm so cool because I'm still trying to figure it out. And they're looking at me like I'm crazy. I was like, okay, bring 4 Siddurim. So me and my 3 boys, we sat together. You know, one's bar mitzvah, the other two are almost bar mitzvah, and And I was like, okay, so what does moda'ani mean? And they laugh at me. I'm like, you know, like, let's talk about it. And we sat there talking about moda'ani, and they're looking at me like, and then so then the next time we sat to learn Siddur, I asked them, I said, what do you think is the most important thing to think before saying the most important pasuk of a Jew, which is Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad? I said, right, we all could agree that's the most important pasuk. Yeah. I said, what do you think is the most important thing to think right before you say that pasuk? And so they get into it like, Yiras Hashem, Avas Hashem, Yiras Hashem, and Muna, that Hashem exists, like really amazing things, especially for young teenagers. And then I said, well, Chazal actually tell us. They said, really, where? I said, in davening, because they look at the line right before it, that we say, Baruch Ata Hashem, Oyev Am Yisrael, that Hashem loves Am Yisrael. And so we could even go through the whole paragraph, but just that line. And then we went through the paragraph also, and they were sitting there like, I was like, the most important thing for you to think is not about how much you believe in God, not if you keep the mitzvahs, not fearing him, just not loving him, just that Hashem loves you. And so I actually, once we're mamish getting real and saying all of our averas, well, not all of them, trust me, I have a lot more that I wouldn't say. But one day this week, I was like playing my flute, and that was my psuka de Zimra. And I was like, I didn't say any psukim, but it was Zimra, and it got me really in the zone, ready for Birchas Kriyashma. So like, of course, I felt so guilty. So I quickly said, Baruch Sha'amar Ashrei Yishtabach. And then I'm looking at myself, I'm like, seriously, like, what even was that? Like, did I even think about the words? Like, like I opened my hands as if I was being holy. But like probably like the Pesach Yedecha took the same amount of time as the mumbling of all the three, this, like, well, who am I fooling? Like, I don't want to fool. I don't want to serve Hashem in this way of just like doing some ritualistic thing that doesn't actually mean or change my experience. On the other hand, if it's all about my experience, then who am I serving? I'm just serving myself.
Oh, this is juicy.
Yeah, so I believe, that's why I believe deeply. I think we were just, I believe deeply in this duality, that you have to have something that you have to have a Shulchan Aruch that you could bang against, or else there's nothing there. But we need to bring this, and this is, this duality is essential, but it also has been a fight. This has been the fight of Yosef and Yehuda, and it's been the fight throughout all the years. The machlekes between the Chassidim and the Litvaks, and it's the fight between Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. I remember when my other Rebbe, Rav Daniel Belsky, years ago, he turned to me and he said, "You think Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David are friends? They're riding on two horses towards each other, each one trying to kill the other." Wow. And I was like, and he's like, and that was it. I just went on a journey from there. But that's mamish what it's been. Yosef and Yehuda have been at each other's throats since for the last 3,500 years, and it's been happening in Am Yisrael consistently. Wow. And the concepts of Yesod and Malchus, right? Doing versus being. This is Rabbi Nachman's Torah Vav, which has been one of the biggest lights of my life, is the Nekuda Al Yaina and the Nekuda Tachtaina, Baki Baratze, Baki B'Shayiv. Being able to balance experience and experiential avodas Hashem, and halachic, doing what you have to do even if you don't experience it. Dry. Gullus and Geula, right? In a way, it's like the connection that we have with Hashem in the dark moments. This is a question I've asked. I always ask all my friends, and I like to put it out there to you, like, what's higher? Sitting on the couch, having a moment with your wife when your mom is like looking in each other's eyes and like, wow, it's so amazing. Like, we love each other so much. It's like, whoa. Or like when you're really frustrated with her and you just want to be like, get out of my face. And she's like, can you just do the dishes? And you just go, I don't want to do the dishes. And you just go and you say, something? She asked me to do it, and I'm going to do it for her. Maybe the dishes is not even such a good one, because that's really for the house and for both of you. But something that she asked for you to do that is like for her, and you do it anyway, even though in this moment you do not even want to see her. And this is mamish, like the difference, like what's higher, being in the base of Migdash, and like mamish is like karbonis, and we're eating steaks, and the Levium are singing, and the Kahanim are like, and it's like glorious moment, or like mamish in middle of like dark ages Europe, and there's a Yidala that's just sitting there and doesn't feel like wanting to be a Jew, and he's just trudging home after the last 20 years of the sun not peeking out behind the clouds, and he's just doing it because he's a Jew. Like,
Right.
Gavalt, which one's higher? I don't know.
Right. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to like share this space with you because it really I don't know, I think that there's a part of me that feels like almost like a feeling of like gaiva that I can share like some of my experience like that we kind of meet somewhere because I hold of you like very much and like I know a lot of your work and I'm like, wow, like you also have this like guilt part, like that is so cool. Like I feel like I really met somebody that like really gets what I'm saying because it's very polarized. It's very much like I told you, like how we got into this. I shared with this group, and they're like, "What do you mean? Like, what do you mean you don't daven the whole Kabbalah Shabbos?" And like, it's like, although I have something I want to share from last week's parsha, like a vort, but like even now, I'm like that vort is going to take me out of this experience. Like it's very connected to what we're talking about. And I want to share it with you. And like, I'm even like telling that part, like, don't worry, like if we don't get to the next 15 minutes, I'll send you a WhatsApp. But like, I want to just like, I want to like open this up more because like, this is a daily fight for me. Like, this is like, it's like emotional now for me to think about it because it like brings me back to like so much like confusion in like Yiddishkeit of like, like even if you like just like yeah, like mamish like confusion of like there's halacha, there's boundaries, but there's also like like there's so many examples that I can give, but I don't want to because I feel like each one holds its own controversy. But like just to stick on what we're discussing, like yeah, like you said it so like eloquently, like that last point that you just brought out of like what's higher, like with your wife and like with like Hashem, like like just to like bring this full circle. You want me to? I don't know if I can trip you out because like I feel like you're like so beyond me.
I'm
But
not.
like
You're making something out of me that I'm completely not. And let me tell you
so
something, brother. I'm the biggest balgaiva. I'm sitting here and accept, like, trust me. You're sitting here. You're
so
talking about
let me try
not
to.
keeping halacha.
I'm gonna try
I
to.
struggle so greatly.
I'm gonna try to trip you out now. On
Take me away.
Shabbos morning, was it holier when you said Baruch Shamar Ashrei Nishtabach, or was it holier when you were standing there at like whatever it was, and you were saying Oyhei V'Ama Yisrael and like about to say Shema, like just to bring it like mamish practical in our own experience in life. It's like what, like it's almost like there's a part of me that almost has like a tie on Hashem. It's like Hashem, like why are you making it so hard for me to be like authentic? Like why, like 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 I want to connect so badly.
Right. So I'm gonna make this X-rated because this is a var, and I can't. Yeah, whatever. We're gonna leave the recorder on for this, and we'll do with it what we may. But if in a moment of intimacy between two people, if one of the people are focused on themselves, that would be a travesty, right? Like that's not what intimacy is. On the other hand, without you being present at like listen, we could put it into a pasuk. The pasuk says, and the Maral, I believe, uses this pasuk to say in Avos that it's impossible to birth a child, right? You can't create a child unless there's an aspect of self taiva, because you can't have the act of intimacy without being turned on. And that means that it's, so to speak, your own Yetzer Hara is involved. But you would say, but wait, but maybe the greatest thing is for you not to be like mamish, to be selfless. But if you're selfless, then you're not even there. So it's not, doesn't even count because you're not doing anything. You can't actually have an act of intimacy without you being there, you being turned on. And I think that that is part of the beauty of the relationship with Hashem. Like if you told, let's say we wanted to answer that question, I think the answer to that question is that any marriage that doesn't have both parts is not a healthy marriage. And any relationship with Hashem that doesn't have the duality, and that's why Chazal call us holich shtayim. And it doesn't just mean that we walk on two legs as opposed to holich arba, but a holich shtayim is also as opposed to a malach that's oimed. We're holchim, and the only way you could be a holich is you have the netzach and hoy, the chesed and the gevura, the ava, the yira, the up and the down, and that's the only way that we can move forward. This yin and yang that we're working with, this yisoid and malchus, and we need these two energies. And the truth is that the acceptance of the fact that I need both of them in my life is really going to be the real propulsion of my relationship with Hashem. So yeah, like which one's higher? The answer is, so they asked Mamash Reb Moshe of Kabrin. They said, what was the most important mitzvah that they asked it about his Talmud. What was the most important mitzvah that your Rebbe ever did? And he said, my Rebbe, the most important mitzvah was the one that he was currently doing. And that's really the Indian. It's like, so which moment is higher? Whichever moment you're in. And our job is not to choose which moment we're in. Our job is to meet the moment that Hashem gives us and to come with mamish, the most beautiful of intentions, and to come with selflessness but to accept also, like when you're sitting in a davening and like, do I want to come with an intention to make this mamish like the most beautiful Yom Kippur davening? Beautiful. Wow, what a gorgeous intention. But when it doesn't happen, are you any gewalt? Like, let's just be this is my line that I've been going with. Like, get fleishigs. Like, get fleishigs with whatever you're doing. Like, if it means getting fleishigs with like doing the dishes when you're angry, get fleishigs. Like don't be hedging your bet. Like, go in, dive in. Like, let's make this Elul. Like, so am I supposed to get lost in Elul? Yeah. Like, let's get mamish fleishigs with this Elul. Like, this conversation. Like, are we? Yeah, let's get fleishigs with it. What's going to happen? But people are going to see that, like Yehuda, you just said that you didn't daven Psuka de Zimra and that you daven after Zman Kriyashma, and that, yeah, like, guess what? I'm not a perfect person. And if you think that these are the worst things that I've done, then you're fooling yourself. And like, this is part of what it means to be Yehuda Raice. Like, but I want to get fleishigs, and I want to share, and I want to talk real, and I want to. And because I'm not interested. I'm not interested in things getting packaged up and looking beautiful. This is, I think I mentioned to you, this website that we're launching, rawtshuva.com. It's like, tshuva is not meant to be pure. As a matter of fact, tshuva, it is mitame taharim. If you're tahar, tshuva is not good for you. One of the pshatim in b'makom shebal tshuva I made inside the gomer yachal lamad, right? The place that about tshuva stands, the tzaddik can't stand there, is because he's not allowed to be there. Because the Baal Tshuva has to go back into that room with that woman. You have to go back. You have to bring up all the negative images in your mind. If a tzaddik would bring up those thoughts in his mind, he'd get an Aveira. And Hashem would say, bad man. But when Yehuda Raice goes and they start bringing up, oh man, remember that crappy day? And it goes, wow, you're bringing it back you're doing video on it?
Wow.
And it's a crazy thing. And that's why even in the halacha of it, right, the one who sprinkles the blood of the para aduma, he becomes tamei ad arav. Because that is the nature of tuma. And this is a kliyakar on I think, or the Ibn Ezra, I don't remember, on the pasuk over there. But this is the whole nature of tshuva. And that's why tshuva, like, you could shake, bro, you and I and any other yid could mamish shake lulav and esrog and mamish look like Reb Itchemeyer, Reb Tzvi Meyer. Like, we could make the most beautiful tzaddikim pictures of anybody you want. Especially you have a good photographer like Gavalt, and you could see.
You actually have a nice one.
Huh?
Your profile picture is actually with lulav and esrog.
Mamish, yeah, it's true, right? We have from we have Reb Yaakov Daniel over here in our town. He just got married. Mazel tov. And like, so yeah, it's like, wow, he looked like such a tzaddik. But tshuva is like gross. There's like boogers on your sleeve. There's like mud on your face. And like people look at you like, are you okay? And you're like, yeah, no. And then you're like, there's like curse words coming out. Your video looks like a mixture of like, I'm bad, but I'm also good, and I'm like confused, and like it's raw and it's real, and sadly it's not spoken about enough. And so therefore we have these tshuvas where like you have these L's that, yeah, I'm talking too much. Sorry. Fine. Let's be raw. Let's be raw and let's be real. Get Blashings.
I love it. I love it. You answered like I don't think you were trying to answer, but like just to bring you back a few minutes, like it was so sweet. It was so emotional for me to hear that. Like I'm so at a point of frustration that like I can't go to that like I can't go to that shul that people would probably think is like a shram or something, whatever they call it, like in India, like, which is funny because my wife's grandfather, it's so amazing how Hashem does this. My wife's grandfather had a movement called Jubus. He was the leader of the I forget even what it was called. What was it? Like reinventing Judaism or I don't remember what it was called, but it's a pretty popular movement. Like his son told me that like when you go to shuls for this Judah movement, you don't know which way to daven because everybody davens like in their own way. So you don't even know like which, I can't remember the name of it. It's weird. Anyway, his name is Zalman Schachter. I don't know if that name rings a bell.
Oh,
but anyway,
yeah. Renewal.
I forget what it's called. What's it called?
Renewal, I think.
Renewal. Yeah. So anyways, so like he met with like the Dalai Lama and like whatever, and it's like I know that like when I first got married, like I knew that I hated that, if I could use the word hate, I hated that approach to Judaism where it's like, everything goes, do whatever you want, whatever. But it's like so interesting, like now as like we're talking, that frustration that I have because I really want that, but I want it in like a Shulchan Aruch way.
Mamish.
It really touches me. But like the way that you said it would like, yeah, like that's the relationship. Like you're not like a malach. You don't like I don't know, like it hit me even as I try to vocalize it now. I'm not doing justice to it, but it hit me. I'm like, yeah, like Hashem wants that frustration. Like Hashem is so happy that you don't know what to do. Like that you care so much about listening to him, but you also care so much about connecting to him. And like, wow, Gavad, like that you're frustrated that like everybody's like, finishing Shmoneh Esrei and you're like still at like, Magen Avram, like, yeah. And like you're annoyed because you can't say Tachana now because it's a Monday. And it takes you 15 minutes to say Tachana if you're going to actually say it because it's longer than Shmoneh Esrei. So you really like, thank you so much. That was like so nice. It was so touching. I'm like, again, I'm davening like Hashem, please help me remember. But it's like, I also want to internalize it. Like, I want to like, I really want to take that in because it's so true what you're saying. Like, I'm looking like, oh, you have these guys that do this, these guys that do that. Like, where do I fit in? It's like, you fit in being annoyed about where do you fit in? Because that's the relationship. It's not like, all right, here's your box. Like, here's your box. Here's your box. Like, you don't have a box because you're frustrated. Like, I don't know, whatever. That's just
wow.
so
that was very powerful. Man, it really is. It's something else. It's something else I appreciate so deeply being able to have this conversation with you. And I think that this is, this is Sichas Chaverim, you got to have these conversations because we can each, like, we really need to hear each other and hear people talk. And like, even hearing you saying what you just heard from what I said, I was like, whoa, did I say that? Or did you just say that? And I'm tripping out to your thinking. And, and we each, and when we talk with each other and when we have like open and honest conversation and dialogue, that's how we expand ourselves and we need to grow. It's amazing that even the Gemara recognized that, and that's how Gemara is written as dialogue.
Oh my goodness.
Like it's crazy. Like you think like wow. And I mean, one of the things I'm looking forward to with Mashiach and Tchias HaMesim is like being able to go to like festivals where it's just going to be like, you'll sit there and there's just going to be like conversations like, oh, right. Oh, like Rabbi Akiva is going to be having a conversation with the Arizal, the Baal Shem Tov, and Avram Avinu. Rabbi Akiva is going to be the one like, leading it about, Jewish mysticism as it's gone through the through the years, like, but from different people throughout history. Like, can you imagine what a conversation would look like between these people? And like, it's going to be broadcast, like, it'll be like the most amazing podcasts you've ever heard. Like, it's unreal. Like to hear these conversations. I mean, could you imagine listening to the conversation of Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Gamliel, like all five of them as they sat in Bnei Brak on Seder night? Like, and it's recorded that they had an epic conversation of such epic proportions that by the end of the conversation, they were all like, wow, we all just got to be Makabel Malchus Shemayim again. Higia Zman Kriya Shema. Like, we've hit the point. Like, we need these. Like, we need these epic conversations. And I know for me, like, just right now, having this conversation with you is, clearly our souls connect really with all Am Yisrael, but it's nice to see it benigla that our souls connect. And I feel like you've returned the piece of my soul to me, being able to talk with you and hearing your journey. And I definitely also feel very validated within this journey. Listen, it's almost time that we have to end, but I really want to hear that Torah. So you want to take us away?
Okay, awesome. I also want to share with you, there's a part of me that also wanted to give you like a 15-minute like rundown of like where I came from. And like, I'm like, almost like in a way, like, yeah, like that wasn't meant to like happen. Like,
Yeah, I was expecting that we were going to start off with that. And then we just got into conversation.
Right. So, but that's what happens. So anyway, so listen to this. So last week's Parsha. And by the way, just to talk about the validation that you're feeling and like we're connecting in that way, I also was like, oh yeah, the last 2 minutes, maybe I'll be able to like share that thing. But then there's like a part of me that's like, yeah, but then you don't know where that's going to take you. Like you might have the missing mincha, Anyways, so basically last week's Parsha, it says, even if when the Rabbanan tell you to listen to them, you have to listen yamin or small, right? The Rabbanan.
Right.
And the chinuch, I was zeichet to see this, mamish, after this conversation on Friday, the guys in the group were like, yeah, but you don't want to be different. That was their like big thing. Like, what do you mean? Like your kids are going to be walking around, they're not going to know what Kabbalah Shabbos is, like because Tati only says one pasuk, and then skips to the Chaldaiti when everybody's singing because that he can also connect to. Anyways, so listen to this. The chinuch says that that even if you know that the Rabbanan are making a mistake, even if you know that they're making a mistake, like he says it like explicitly, like how I don't know, but like better than the Rabbanan. And let's just bring it practical. Like I think I know better than the Rabbanan. Like I think I should set up davening. Like I think davening should be set up totally differently. Like I think that people should like come in and start talking together before davening. Like I don't, whatever. That's my thing. And I know they're making a mistake. The chinuch says if you don't subjugate yourself to the board members, then all of Yiddishkeit will totally dissipate because everybody will be running around with what they think is right, and we won't have a Torah anymore. There won't be any more Messiah. So that chinuch is like so deep because, yeah, of course you could say he's talking about a specific halacha, he's talking about this, maybe he's not talking about Kabbalah Shabbos, but let's just talk about it hashkafically, meaning like let's take the hashkafa from the chinuch, of like the idea of like, yeah, like this is, I know this is right, but like what's this going to look like? Like, with the rollerblading thing, I don't come out of my house, I'm learning to grind now. I don't grind down my whatever, what is it called? The thing you hold on to when you walk down the stairs?
Yeah, the handrail.
Handrail. But there's nothing wrong with that. No. I keep my gear like, in a bag. I put it in my car. I get to the skate park and I put it on there. And it's like, but why are you doing that? There's nothing wrong with what you're doing. Adarabba. Like the people in your building would think like you're so cool and you'll be able to be in a car. And they're like, wow, like this rabbi, and it's like, no, like that's not the right thing for my neighborhood. Like they won't get it. so I'm just saying, like, that chinuch hashkapically is like a very big piece for me, because it's like, even if you know, quote unquote, they're making a mistake, you want Judaism to exist. You want there to be a masgeret, and if you can't respect the masgeret, then you're going to wind up in a very, in a different place. So just to go on that idea of, like, that balance and that relationship of, like, we need, yeah. So I don't know. So that was the chinuch that we read last week. This week's parsha is it's a big piece and again, you could take it to the extreme, and you could be like, what do you mean? Like, you're not allowed to, you can't daven Shmoneh Esrei longer than everybody else, because look, they set you up with 7 minutes. It can go extreme, but you could also go extreme the other way, and you could wind up like mamish, like, you can mamish create a movement that is taking people away from Hashem, chas v'shalom, whatever. So anyway, so that's the part. So I don't know if you want to, I don't know if we're able to finish, because I think whatever I say or you say will just lead us to another, connection. So I leave it to you to either, say goodbye or share or whatever.
Yeah, no, this is glorious. This is glorious. We could end with that. I think that's very powerful, and I think it's not easy. It ain't easy.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be easy, but it is simple. Right. It is. There is a lot of simplicity, and with simplicity we can do it. This obviously this is just beginning of more conversation. So Bezrat Hashem.
Amen. With Hashem's help.
This was huge. Amen.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mamish, guys.
Have an amazing week. Have an amazing day. Have an amazing moment.
Amen. Amen. I'm looking forward. After Mincha, give me a call.